Welcome to Pathways Podcast. Don't adjust your TV screens. This is not Aaron Groves. I am Jen Cross. And I know every episode we say that we are joined by very special guests, but I really mean these people are special today because what we have for you is a panel of spouses from the staff. And I know some of you are thinking, you've been on the podcast before, but some people, Todd, we haven't heard from in a really long time. So today we have Trisha, who's married to Aaron,
Hello.
Todd, who's married to Marcy, and the sweet Vicky, who's obviously married to Pastor Steve. So what we thought would be fun today is just to sort of recap, how did we get here? And if you're wondering, Jen, who are you married to? Well, I'm married to Tracy, who also works here off and on too with us. So
we're all spouses.
So we're all spouses.
Few of us are also staff.
Yes. Yeah, and we've all also been here for a very long time, we determined this morning. So I just thought it'd be fun to sit down, talk about how did we get here, what is it like, and kind of what does the future hold. So thanks for coming in, guys.
Yeah.
So I thought we would just start with Todd since Todd hasn't. I don't know, Todd. Have you been on the podcast before?
I have never been on.
Oh my goodness! Well, welcome to podcasting. So
can I just say real fast? Vicky and I were talking ahead of time, and we just thought we would just be quiet, and we don't get to hear from Todd very often, and it could just be about you today.
Really short. Yeah, no, I think I was asked to be on the podcast for a Valentine's Day once, and then I had it all on my calendar. I was ready to go. I mentioned it like that morning to Marcy, and she's like, "Oh, we changed that."
So you had prepared yourself, and then we didn't end up doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not so prepared today.
That's all right. We don't ever pre-prepare for this. So just talk a little bit about, I mean, we've heard Marcy's story several times about her coming to church and then being a teacher beforehand, but talk a little bit about what was it like as Marcy felt the call to come here. We know you heard about the church from the manor, but talk a little bit about in the beginning when you guys kind of came to the way, as Marcy was making her transition, just, hit some highlights and some things that you guys talked about in the beginning, kind of your perspective and all of that.
Yeah, well, we had been in town since 2003, and we had attended another church, but previous to that, we had lived in Pella and attended Third Reformed, and really enjoyed that. But as we moved into Newton, we wanted to be part of the local community and a local church, and so we attended, and I think for 5 or 6 years. And then we just kind of decided, we really enjoyed Third. We started to attend down there. We actually came to Community Reformed a little bit as we were looking and searching for what we were supposed to do. And we started going back to Third. I don't think we were there a month, and we caught wind that they were coming to Newton and planting a church, and we're like, oh yeah, where's that? And well, we're going to partner with, come in to the Community Reform building, and it was like, oh, we're there. So that was really good, and actually it was natural because we came kind of back to people that we were comfortable with and had attended a little bit.
And I remembered meeting you guys back in that day before we were the way.
Because Trisha, you and Aaron were on the search committee for kind of what does that look like for the path forward for Community Reform.
We were trying to move forward in a dying church, and we did not know at the time what was coming, but
Yeah.
And we actually in that time Nick was born, and the sewing ladies gave us a knitted, I think it was mittens and a hoodie and.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I don't think I knew that part. That's actually how I can remember how old the way is, because I just think about how old Nick is.
Yeah.
So that's good. So you guys, I mean, you both grew up in the church, so you knew how important it was. But I loved what you said just a few minutes ago about being a part of the community. So when you were thinking about being a part of a church plant, the opportunity for you to be in the community, it was pretty much wide open at that point. And Marcy's love for kids, I mean, that was just sort of a natural fit for her. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So kind of what was it like? Marcy went to college to be a teacher, and when she got involved with children's ministry here, that obviously didn't surprise you at all. But what did that look like for you as she started I mean, did you have a feeling that this is where she would be sort of full time, that God would call her into ministry, or, what was that like?
Well, I would say it was kind of a slow progression. Not necessarily because I didn't feel it, because I kind of resisted it. We had made a decision together that she would go back and get her master's degree for education, and I'm kind of a numbers guy. That's kind of relates to what I do, and I was like, well, no, don't you want to at least break even on the investment that we made? And kind of as we got closer to that break even mark, it was like, yeah, no, this is the right thing to do. And it became more and more clear.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I love hearing her story of running the wrong way on the track. She's got a really sweet story of why you run in opposite directions on certain days, and but just her story of stepping out. And when you do have a plan, when there is a retirement and plan, and you have your path forward, and then God just like, nope. I think her obedience has affected so many people positively, but so is yours through your support of her too, because you both have been here. So talk a little bit about how you've been involved as Marcy was so heavily involved, because I think sometimes as a staff spouse, and I can speak for Tracy too, I was involved way before Tracy was involved. Our kids were very little back then. So as I was here setting up for children's ministry, he would be at home, or as I was taking discipleship classes, he would be at home taking care of the kiddos. So what was it like for you to be involved as Marcy was spending time here, growing children's ministry and doing discipleship?
Well, when you're a spouse of a children's ministry person, you're here as well.
Yes.
You get to come. There's a lot of pre-setting things up, cleaning things up, tearing things down. So you're part of it. You're coloring things and
cutting things out,
cutting things
laminating,
out, which really wasn't any different than being the spouse of an elementary teacher.
Yes.
I love his verbiage of "I get to,"
Yes.
and part of it.
What's really
Yes,
funny,
yeah.
the first time I actually think I met Todd, it was downstairs in the Way Cafe, and he was wearing a backpack vacuum, cleaning
Yes.
up after an event.
I feel like I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I enjoy kind of doing those things
Yeah.
in the background.
Being supportive.
And kind of when we started, one of the things, so I don't know if people know, but I work in insurance, and when I started there, it was a shirt and tie every day, and dress clothes. And one of the things that I was very intentional about is when I come to church, I'm going to wear blue jeans and a t-shirt. And I really remember early on being outside cleaning something up on a Sunday morning, and someone coming in and saying, I saw you in not church clothes, and I kind of thought that was different, so I wanted to come and check it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they stuck around, but they came,
Right.
and they listened, and they were there that day.
Yeah.
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 So that was
Interesting.
Yeah.
that stuck with me as something. Okay, this is going to be me. It's going to be intentional.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So it over the years you've been on Consistory, you've been on the worship team for, oh my goodness, for a very long time too. So we appreciate you serving in that capacity too. But
Which that's a little bit out of my comfort zone because although I've always sang, but it's
Yeah.
not behind the scenes.
right.
So what was it like for you as a younger? Did you grow up in choir and all those things?
Yeah. I did.
Yeah.
I did choir, and I was in a musical my senior year.
Wow.
I never did theater, but I was in a barbershop. It was the Music Man.
Wow.
in a barbershop.
Is there a video of
I was just going to ask that.
I think there's a video cassette tape,
Oh, good.
but
Not quite video, but
well, it's no VHS.
Oh,
sure. VHS. Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't have anything to play with. So
We could probably find one.
That's funny. That's funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we know Vicki is married to Pastor Steve, and a lot of us have heard Vicki's story before. But Vicki, just give us like a brief overview for those who are listening to this podcast for the very first time. You and Steve, you went to Third together. You were serving together. The Lord called you into ministry. Give some insight to just a recap of what did that look like as you sort of watched Pastor Steve be called, and then as a wife, what was that like for you, sort of watching him transition? Because you talk about leaving your home church, and it was really hard. So just talk a little bit about what was that like as you sort of became a staff spouse.
Yeah, it's just life changing, and you don't know what it's going to look like, but you just pray and pray and pray and trust, and you're open to who God puts in the path. We talk about how we remember how long the way has been here by how old Nick is.
Yeah.
Todd and Marcy heard about the way coming, and they had us over for dinner.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to hear about it and they wanted to be a part of it. And so they didn't know us, we didn't know them. And Marcy had just like 6 weeks ago before had the baby, and had us over for dinner.
Sounds
and
like
so
Marcy.
yeah, it's just trusting and being on the same team.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I always joke that we've been here for so long, and I'm only 5'1", so the kids have been here for so long that I was actually taller than all of them at some point. But so we're going on, it'll be 16 years this year that the way has been here, which is just crazy to think about. But as you've done lots of different things at the way over the years. You've got a beautiful gift for decorating. You've led women's ministry for a long time, and now Alexis is taking that over. So as the way continues to progress, and people, the other thing I think is really awesome is that we have people who've been here for so long that their kids are now adults and they're on consistory, which I think is so great. So we're keeping people here, which is so awesome, and that's a testimony to what God is doing here. But what has it been like to sort of watch the way grow from a spouse perspective? Because you and Steve don't get to sit in church together unless you're off on vacation somewhere. You guys are taking a break. So what has it been like for you to watch Steve sort of grow through all of those transitions? Because we've been through a lot in 16 years, particularly the last 5 or 6 years. So what has that been like for you as you've sort of seen him grow, but also the church change a little bit?
Well, he just impresses me all the time. He is a great leader. So he's my favorite preacher, so I'm okay with sitting by myself in church and listening to him. I learn from him. I love the way he does analogies. I love the way God works through him in just preaching the word. So I'm good with sitting by myself.
Yep.
I sit in the front row.
Yes, you do.
And so we're right there, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's a great leader. So I love to see the church building leaders.
Yeah.
And so to see the staff grow, when we first started, I did a lot. You talked about seeing Todd with a vacuum on his back. We've probably all done that. It's been cool to see how we were younger, obviously, but God gave us the energy that we needed at that time to step up and do what needed to be done, and the love for it, the love for the people. It's been awesome to see the youth grow.
Yeah.
When we came, I think our kids might have doubled the size of the youth,
Yeah.
So just to see the youth grow is amazing. When we got the card, the picture of all the youth, to see how many there were, to see their love for the Lord, their authenticity.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything more important than that.
Yeah.
To see the men and their love for the Lord, and the way men are leading their families and stepping up in church.
Yeah.
So many times it's women volunteering, but to see men, that's only going to make families better and communities better.
100%.
And,
Yeah.
so, I don't think about that kind of thing a lot.
Yeah.
But when we have events where that's the focus.
Yeah.
To see people being baptized and becoming members, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And Steve and I often, sit back and it's just, we're like, oh my gosh, why do we get to be a part of it?
Yeah.
Why? And that's how we think of it. We think of it as being a part of it, not doing it.
Right.
God's doing it.
Right.
And so we just feel blessed
Yeah.
to be a part of it. And
Yeah.
and I really feel like God called Steve.
Yes.
He's just a different He's a different kind of pastor than probably what we grew up with. I think he's so relatable to men,
Yeah.
and that he can show men that you can be a manly man and you can love Jesus.
Yeah. In what time of history? I mean, obviously, I'm not that old, but I just never thought that we would ever be in a place where it is a bad thing to be masculine, to be a
right.
male leader, to be able to lead from a place and as a man, and be to John Wayne or whatever. But you know, God put Steve in this time for this very reason. I mean, and he's making a kingdom impact, but he's also making an impact for men at home too, because you're absolutely right. Men need to be leading their families, but he also comes from a place of love and tenderness, you know, especially because he has a daughter and he has a wife. And so I think that is huge too. And so I agree with those sentiments. For this time right now, Steve was meant to be a pastor. And I just think it's crucial because he's, again, making a kingdom impact, but also an impact for men at home too. So, yeah.
And he's a, you know, who you see is who he is. He is the same all the time. And so he doesn't try to be a certain way. That's just who he is.
Sure.
So, I think God is using him as who he is, and it's great.
Yeah. Yep. It's wonderful. Well, Trisha, so you are in a super unique position because you do work here and you have been on staff for as long as the Way has been here too, but you're also a staff spouse because Aaron is also working here. He's a pastor. So talk a little bit about kind of how you, I mean, I know people have heard your story before too, but talk about a little bit about how you got here and then talk a little bit about how Aaron came on here officially.
Yeah. So we go back to the beginning too, and actually before the beginning. So we were trying to find a place to get married, and we landed here at Community Reformed Church. That was back in 2007, so we're going on 18 years. But at the time, we were kind of involved, but the church was dying, and there were just things that. While church members were trying to make things happen, more people were leaving. We by far were some of the youngest people here, and it was discouraging to say the least. And Aaron, not really growing up in church, and he worked a night shift. He did not see the benefit of attending with me, and he supported me coming, but that's not what I wanted,
Sure.
Not what I wanted in my marriage. And it was just a discouraging time because the few friends that I had coming here, they quit coming, Aaron quit coming. And I remember there was one Bible, at the time I was not even really reading the Bible, to be honest. I still hadn't been taught the significance of the Bible and the significance of a relationship with Jesus. But I just remember the Bible verse, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, and all your ways acknowledge him, and he will set your paths straight. And for whatever reason, God got my attention with that one verse, and I just knew I'm supposed to stick this out, and I don't know why. And it wasn't much longer. So actually, the one person that I would say got us here and was keeping us here was the pastor at the time, and he told us he was leaving. And I was like, well, now what? That was the last thing kind of holding me here. And but that one verse kept me here, and it wasn't long after he left, we found out the Way was going to be planting a church. And I knew this is what I'm waiting for. And I hadn't even met the people yet, but I knew the church was dying, and this is a glimpse of hope. And so then we got to meet the team of people that came in and got to see Vicky. And I remember seeing Steve and Vicky for the first time. And at the time, Aaron and I had a marriage that was not good and headed toward divorce. And I remembered watching them, and they were a couple that I wanted to be that couple. I wanted a marriage like that. And they came in, and I just remembered thinking they have something that I don't have.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a jealousy, but it was how do I get that?
They brought something with
Yes.
them when they walked
Yes.
into the room.
Yes. So in 2009, it shut down as Community Reformed and started as The Way. And I am like Vicky right away starts a women's Bible study simultaneously. Maybe I'm wrong on timing, but it seemed, I don't know what got me first, women's Bible study or hearing Steve's preaching, but it was both and I just started falling in love with the Word in a way I never had before. In fact, I remember getting a Bible when I was in 8th grade, and I was kind of like, what do I do? Like, does this sit on the shelf? Like, I was never taught to read it, and I was never, even though I went to church all my life. And so I just started falling in love with the Word, and I was hearing God's voice in the ways I never had before, and a relationship with Jesus started, and I was just on fire. I was on fire, but Aaron at the time was not. And so I was discouraged by that because our marriage still wasn't good, even though God was starting to change my heart. He was starting to reveal ways where I would have always blamed Aaron as the reason for our problems in our marriage. He was starting to show me, actually, Trisha, let's work on this. So I did. I tried to listen to what God was telling me. I prayed the best I could. Even at that time, I hadn't really been taught to pray well, and I was not good at that. But I did. I prayed for him, and it probably took a good 2.5 years maybe for Aaron to, he let me do my thing. He was resistant to me coming on. I came on to staff when he was still in a place of, I don't know about all this.
Sure.
I relate to Steve. He's a man's man.
Yes.
I think he's cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know about all this. And it really it was the journey class that kind of changed his heart,
Yeah.
I think. And he was all in at that moment.
Yeah.
And that class was the beginning of the transformation of our marriage.
Sure.
Even though God was already starting to work on me, he started that work on Aaron. And like, I look at my faith walk as that gradual, and he was like, whoo, like kind of took off. And we're not there yet. We have not arrived, but in the last 16 years, like,
Sure.
there's been a lot of broken things in our marriage and in our story, just the selfishness that we brought in. He being in law enforcement at the time, and God did a lot of healing
Yeah.
in those broken pieces.
Yeah.
And I am so thankful for a church that stayed true to the Word,
Yep.
especially as we became more and more of a culture of straying from the Word. It held tightly.
Yeah.
And it's changed our lives. And we have people in our lives who don't get it, who don't understand why, like, you were fine before. What's like, but I know they see a change in
Right.
us, but they still don't understand why we do what we do. And that's okay. That's been hard, but that's okay.
Right.
And, but so when Aaron started taking off, God got his attention of some of the spiritual gifts in him. He has a leadership gift,
does,
and he
yeah.
has a gift of teaching and instructing, and he's a man's man too, and has a lot of qualities, similarities to Steve, and but they're different, and so then he was asked to preach, and he throughout the years, we just kind of thought, okay, utilizing a spiritual gift, that's fine, that's cool. And I don't know at what point it just kind of hit us, what if he's supposed to do this?
Yeah.
And that was something really hard to wrestle with, because he was in law enforcement, and he had a pension, and he,
All of the things, the
all
numbers,
the things,
the
and
math, the plans.
How does this work? And he actually prayed the deadly prayer of God, you're going to have to physically take me out of this if I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was a righteous prayer or not, but God did.
Yeah.
And he a few things. So he broke his leg very badly. Todd was a part of that.
Yeah, I'll
Saved
never
his
forget
life
that
to
phone
maybe
call.
some degree.
I'll never forget that.
And I that was actually a period of time where I thought, I don't know if he'll ever go back to the job. And that was the period of time where God prepared our hearts.
Yeah.
This may not be his calling forever.
Yeah, because you were a cop's wife for a
and-
long
yeah,
time, and
yeah.
that comes with its own family,
Yeah.
and it comes with its own
Yeah.
identity.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, this is all I've known. And, you know, I think there is, you do want to hold that closely because of what it is. And
Yeah.
so for you at that moment that could transition, that was probably eye-opening too. Yeah.
Yeah. So then actually, so he was off work for quite a while, 6 to 8 months, maybe 8 months. And I was a nurse, a mom of 3
He didn't really
kids.
want to get better.
Yeah, you're right. He did. There's a lot of stories of that season. It was a very trying season, but God definitely used it to prepare our hearts for ministry, for him to be in ministry. And actually, so when he went back to work, it was almost confusing to me. Like, oh, he's not done with law enforcement. Oh, we're back at, but I think our hearts were already ready.
Yeah.
And then not much longer after that, he actually medically retired due to medical asthma on the job. And so anyway, we were able to accept that. That was hard, and everyone around us didn't know we had already processed the pruning of that job, but we had, and so we did okay,
Right.
walking through that season while others were grieving him being gone out of law enforcement, not understanding why.
Right.
But we did okay.
Yeah.
And God prepared our hearts for that, and so yeah, it's been fun to watch him grow in his preaching gifts, and we laugh because there is such an like Steve had that soft side to him, and Aaron for quite a while of his preaching it was a toughness of maybe not the empathetic side. And so there was one particular sermon where we laughed at him because he was like, "Stand up, I'm gonna bless you." It was a very instructor side.
Yeah.
And it's been fun to watch God grow that gift of empathy for others, and
Yeah.
and just tenderize his heart.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
God's been good to us. He's provided, he's protected. So we've been in ministry together for since 2020. He retired at the end of 2020. So 2021, he came on to staff here as a congregational care guy, outreach guy, and
Good.
And so it was kind of hard at first to be in ministry together, and I was kind of protective of this place, and he would come in with ideas, and I'd be like, "No, we don't do that here." And so I had to learn how to kind of surrender that and let him have his ideas and not kill his visions, and where God was calling him in the job, and just. I would say God has done a lot of work in us and preparing us for if he were to step into that full time.
Yeah.
So.
And since then he's not just the outreach person, or he was congregational before, and now he's Pastor Aaron Groves,
Yes.
which is really awesome to see. So how is the positional transition changed a little bit as far as all of that?
So he started as congregational care, then he's been in outreach ever since, and I think he enjoys that. I think he really has enjoyed the preaching and kind of coming alongside people too. And him and I have, I think it's God's calling, because we didn't really ask for it, but we just have found ourselves in positions of walking alongside broken marriages because we have that testimony too. And so that's been a blessing. Like we find passion with helping marriages thrive. And I would say even more this past year, kind of the why behind it is when families, the foundation is strong, what a better witness we are to God, to God's kingdom. And even marriage resembles the body of Christ's love for the church.
Yeah.
And so, it helped me to identify the why, not just, oh, I want people to be happy and have a good, happy marriage. Like there's a why behind that.
Right.
And as Christians, our marriage should reflect Christ.
Yes.
And
Right.
so again, I like watching people like Steve and Vicky and just and Todd and Marcy and you and Tracy. Like it encourages us to see just strong marriages. And for so long, too long, we were around people who did not have
Right.
that, and that impacted us.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it's been fun to watch Aaron kind of transition more into the preaching and some of those pastoral things.
Yeah, and he's definitely a leader, and so I just love how God puts us in a place where we're born with leadership skills and teaching, and coloring and cutting out, and the love of laminating things and all of the things, and then we just get to use it for the glory of God, and that's I just love that, because it's like everything just prepares you for this, and Aaron usually hosts this podcast, and he's really good at interrogation. I mean, really good at asking questions. But I know that one of the questions he would ask, and it's not, it's all sunshine and daisies when you are in ministry, and when you are the spouse of someone who's in ministry. But let's talk a little bit about the common misconceptions of working for a church or serving the church, or what are some of the hardest things that we sort of deal with when it comes to the church and sort of walking alongside people, because the Bible says don't be in the world or don't be of the world. And so this whole idea of you think about that too with other people's feelings. So every day we're walking with people who are struggling, or who have just lost a child, or whose best decisions got them in the decision that their situation they're in now. And you're like, why did you do that? But also there are other things that go on that you can't take home with you, similar to law enforcement or other jobs also. But what are some common misconceptions of working at the church and supporting our spouse? But what are some of the hardest things that we kind of walk alongside them with?
Should I go first?
You can go first.
I think one of the biggest struggles I've had in the 16 years is not taking the hard things home. So I one of my spiritual gifts is empathy, and I feel what people feel, and
you love hard.
I love hard, and so it's really hard to not get consumed with that and not take that home to my family, and so more years than I would like to admit, I did that, and God really has taught me how to hand those burdens to Him, and I still don't do that perfectly. But being able to release the hard things you deal with every day, and you can go from someone who's celebrating a baptism or getting married to someone who died and you're doing their funeral, to someone whose marriage is on, like there's just so many emotional up and downs in one day at this place. And I think that's been one of the hardest things for me, is walking with people in that, or just the other thing I would say, the spiritual attack of your own family, and not imposing that on other people. So it can be really easy to get hardened here when you're dealing with your own things, or people are maybe ignorant to what you're dealing with, and it's really hard to not get hardened. And so I think that's a constant daily challenge, is God help me to love your people the way you love them, because my love is running out today.
You guys have similar sentiments to that question too.
Well, I think I would come, Marcy would come home with stories, and we talk, and I'm just like, that seems a lot like, I'm always trying to solution,
right?
Like let's fix it,
right.
And I think that's the thing that both as a leader at work and as being a spouse to a staff member, it's like, it's not all about fixing, it's about listening. And everybody, while they might be similar stories, everybody's coming from a different place. And it's not just, we'll do this, or why don't they do that? I mean, sometimes as a spouse, you're just like, yeah, I've heard this before.
Yeah.
And it was over here and over here, and why don't they just fix it? But that's not the way to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I mean, I grew up going to church, and I think I had a misconception early on that, it's just a little old church lady sitting in a church office, just cranking out bulletins, letting people in, dusting and cleaning.
Always
and,
a good day.
Yeah, it's always a good
in
day.
the Lord's house.
It is always a good day in the Lord's house. He's perfectly happy. But I think that I didn't underestimate, because I knew the world was messy. And I knew that people were broken. But I do think that it took me a while to sort of do the same thing, Todd, like listen, but then try to fix things. I don't necessarily think I took people's pain home with me, but I do think that I thought about it a lot, and I can 100% jump to conclusions, and I can be a little bit on the harder end of things, like, well, maybe you should have, measured twice, cut once, just kind of those things. But you start to realize after a while that sometimes people they don't have, maybe they're not a believer, so you can't expect non-believers to react and act like believers do. But also you just have to remember that the growth in their relationship with Christ and the fruits of the Spirit, that's going to come as they grow deeper in their faith too. And that's why the Lord has given us these people to shepherd them. I mean, I'm way stronger now in my faith. I know more about the Bible. God gets all the glory, but it's because of Steve and because of working here and also being in children's ministry. You learn a lot when you have to read a children's Bible to kids.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot. I learned that from Marcy too. But I just think walking alongside people, I mean, we can all say the greatest thing about being a spouse, but also being a part of a church is when someone comes to Christ. There is nothing better than when somebody surrenders their life to Christ. And you know that when the day comes, you're going to see them on the streets of heaven. And just this idea that we were a part of that is absolutely amazing, a part of what we do. But I can specifically remember, I think it wasn't that long ago, I can just Aaron and Marcy had to do a funeral for a baby. And I watched the strength of Marcy and Aaron, and I've seen Steve do many funerals because I'm on the tech side of things. But and Steve is, he is strong, and the Lord has put him in this place where he's that pillar of strength. But I watched Marcy and Aaron try to do this funeral, and I just remember thinking, this looks like the hardest. I mean, I'm upstairs my tears were landing on the iPad as I'm supposed to be muting and unmuting microphones. And I'm watching them do this funeral. And I just remember thinking, I could never do that. I remember thinking about them that night too. I'm like, how do they go home? You know what I mean? Like, they hug their babies tight, and this family was mourning. But I just remember thinking, they are so strong. But it wasn't their own strength, naturally. It's a testimony to what God had done in their life to put them in that position. Because Marcy's strong and Aaron's strong, and sometimes we can stuff our feelings. But I just remember thinking in that moment, like, I could never do that. I'm so thankful they're here. But I remember just thinking, people really... I think overall people have no idea kind of what the staff and their spouses and, quite frankly, their families go through also when they're in ministry. It's a little bit like law enforcement, but I don't know. That was a particular story that I was just thinking about. I was thinking about this podcast today, just about how it's not easy and there are really hard things that we have to go through. But there is blessing on the other side of it. That family, they love Jesus. They are believers, and there were people that got to hear the message that day of that funeral, and hopefully they walked away with some hope in a really sad situation. But they used Marcy and Aaron in that moment, and I was just sad, but also completely proud and humble, and just in awe of the glory of God in that moment. I know that sounds weird, but that's just how it was that day. Only God could have gotten them through that day. I don't know if that's how they feel, but me watching them, that was an incredible day. So, yeah,
that was hard.
Yep. So when we think about the future of the way, we've got some really exciting things coming up. The ministry year is coming up with the kids. Their faith is blowing up. We've got a building that's coming up. So as our spouses move into a whole different realm of building and campus space, what are you guys the most excited about? Like, how do you see our church family, but particularly, your spouses? How excited are they? What does that look like for you guys?
You want to go first?
Sure. Again, we don't sit around and talk about those things. And so when you actually can see physical things coming, you know that God is working.
Yeah.
And what a blessing it is that we actually get to be in that space in our minds where we can see it. Because so much, at least for me, there's a lot of, why me? I can't do this. Because I'm guessing that, even at that funeral, I'm guessing that Aaron and Marcy probably had moments where they were like, I can't do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why me?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm just me.
Yeah.
So God can't possibly use me. And so it's just it's proof of God working.
Yeah.
And you know that lives will be changed, and you know that there's more people that are going to come to know the Lord, and there's more youth that are going to be touched, and more people in the community that they're just gonna come to know the Lord. They're gonna start to love the Word. To hear that you love the Word and that changed your life.
Yes.
That's why.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
On the hard days where we're like, oh my gosh, why did we do this?
Yes.
Yeah. That's why. If one person says, now I love the Word.
Yes.
Now I know Jesus. Now my family, my marriage is better. My family, my kids are great.
A generation has changed.
That's
Yes.
it. That's why.
Yeah.
And so, it's those things of why we do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fun to see other people who haven't been going to the way very long or haven't known the Lord very long invest.
Yeah.
Actually want to be a part of what God is doing and trusting and their faith growing.
Right.
And then bringing people along that they know and they want their family to come.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's everything.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Why don't you go, Seth?
Oh.
I talk too much. You go.
No, I enjoy listening. I'm most excited about the impact we can have for the community.
Yeah.
And really that we have an opportunity to have a space that welcomes people in that maybe are apprehensive to embrace the door of a church.
Right. Exactly.
And I've seen that even transition from when we met in the old church that looked like a church to the new sanctuary that looks a little different than some churches. And we had people that come in and they're welcome. And then this is going to look even more different.
Yeah.
And it's going to be welcoming to community for all sorts of different things. We're going to get to utilize it for our needs.
Yeah.
But there's time that they'll be down that others can utilize it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that and excited to see the people that come.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Being a light in the community and maybe meeting a need that there is in the community. And you don't give all the glory to youth, but you cannot deny what God is doing in the youth group. And we're seeing kids that are bringing their friend, they're on fire, bringing their friends. They're showing up on Sundays without their parents, and then you're starting to see the trickle in of parents that are like, I want to know what my youth is talking about, and they're coming and it's just so to think of a building that's going to help outreach to those youth because they're just on fire. And and most of these kids, like, they weren't taught church. They weren't taught the religious things you do. They were taught the Word of God and have seen the effects in their own life. And it's just, I don't know, it's kind of cool to just see, like you said, the tangible physical growth of what God is doing here at the Way. And it's been cool.
Yeah,
so I'm excited to see how that can continue to be an outreach in our community.
Yeah, I have met with a couple of vendors just trying to organize some construction pieces with the building, and I think I've met with 4 now. And the first vendor, said, why are you doing this? Because I think they see the turf and they think they see it's a metal building and they think, all of the things that in their mind, why are you doing this? And I was like, well, we need the space. And the Lord really convicted me of that afterwards, because it's the truth. We need the space. But the second vendor, so I met with 4. The first one, I said, we need the space and we're out of room and all of the things that are true. But then I got asked again. And I very specifically, I gave them, because our mission and vision of the way is to seek, invite, and welcome people into the unconditional love of God, because that's what we should be doing. And so that is why we're putting up a building. And that is why we're doing all of the things that we're doing that are unlike anything in Jasper County. That's not going to take away from something that is already going really good. We're going to have something that people can come to. And why do we do it? We do it because of Jesus. That's why we do it. So I said it to the third vendor, and I said it to the vendors that I met with yesterday. And I don't know if those vendors are Christians or not.
Yeah.
And they probably think we're crazy town, but they're going to, well, probably not, because they're going to get some money. But that is why we're doing it. And I think that there are people that are like, oh my goodness, the Way is investing, $3 million in a new building into this place. Like, they're giving up a huge green space out there. I think there are people who do think that way. And I think as soon as that, yellow bucket breaks ground, I think people are going to be really interested. And I hope we're ready. I hope we're ready to share our stories. I hope we're ready to talk about how Jesus has changed our life through the Way, and how he can change their life too, because it's not about a turf field and it's not about a new building. It's about Jesus, and it's about our community. And so that's, we had Pastor Don Hayes on the podcast. By the time this one airs, it'll be a little while, but we had him on, and he talked about being a part of the community. And, you guys have been a part of the community, and you guys are in the community. And Trisha, you've got little kids. And so talk about the impact you think that this building will have as far as being able for Way people to sort of reach out as far as outreach goes. Like, what's the outreach idea? What do you think?
So you hear things in the community about how space is limited for sporting practices and things like that. And if you live in Iowa, you know what an Iowa winter feels like, or even an Iowa summer. Our seasons are brutal sometimes.
Yeah.
And so you think about just a space where people can go burn energy.
Yes.
In those brutal seasons, and at the same time try to meet people where they're at in that. And the outreach team is kind of thinking about the ways they can be that in the community, provide for a need, but also stay true to our mission too. Seek, invite, and welcome. And I think the possibilities are endless. We've always had a fall fest, but that space is going to be gone where we would typically put the bouncy houses. And now, what if we have a winter fest? It's summer and winter, like a cool or a warm building to go to in winter, and it takes away those winter blues and. So there's just a lot of ideas, a lot of things, and like you said, it does provide us. We are outgrowing this church and discipleship. Whether it's discipleship or even Sundays, like we have overflow needs, and it is going to be that too. Both and.
So Todd, along with Trisha being here, sort of, from the beginning for sure, you watched us grow out of this building. And then you watch the building of our current worship center, and now this. So, that's got to be really exciting to be a part of.
It is, and at the same time, like we said, Nick was born at the start, so we've gotten to watch the full progression of an impact of kids. And to watch it from a pretty small group of kids that. Went and colored and
they were meeting down in the basement all the way to
our fundraiser for the high school mission trip. It's progressed to actually last year see Nathan's graduation with a number of his classmates unsolicited, giving glory to God. And I don't think that's something that our community has seen in a long time,
Yeah.
if ever. And you know, not only have we watched the progression of this church, but the progression of the community,
Right.
and just the way that it's changed, and it seems to be a brighter place,
Yeah.
a more positive place. You know, when we were here and things weren't going great with Maytag just prior to Steve and Vicky coming, you know, there was a lot of hard things
Yeah.
that were happening, and you know, you
Yeah.
having exposure to law enforcement,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, I had family that was. I think a lot of people in the community had family that were
Yeah.
laid off, and,
Yeah.
and their lives changed.
Yeah.
And it's just a different place.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Way has been part of that.
Mhm.
Not all of that, but
Right.
but it's been part of the changing community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the future is exciting, and it's amazing to be a part of it. It's a blessing to be a part of it. You know, I think the same thing that you do. You know, you get to be a part of it, but my goodness, Lord, you know, you choose us to get to do it. But I'm so glad He did. And it's exciting to watch our staff, you know, grow, and their spouses are involved. You know, it's just kind of like you get voluntold by your spouse a little bit. I mean, that's kind of how things started with Tracy. If you wanted to, you know, the church is a very busy place. So, you know, in the beginning, if Tracy wanted to spend time with me, he had to come to church. So that's kind of what happens sometimes too. But to be able to be in ministry together with your spouse is really a very special thing. To be able to serve together is a very special thing. And for our kids to get to watch us serve too, you know, I just pray that, you know, they're called to serve in their church, doing whatever it is too. I talked about on the podcast that we had with the Rush leaders, the 5th and 6th graders had a Sunday where they got to serve. So Elizabeth sent the kids out to different areas in the church to hand out bulletins or to do other things in the church. And there were 2 boys that came upstairs to serve on the tech team, and both of their families, all of their parents serve in the church or work in the church. And it's just like they were so excited to be a part of the tech team on that day, and they want to serve in their church. So it's like, I mean, I mean, can you imagine we're raising kids and grandkids someday that they not only want to go to church, but they want to serve in the church. Like, it's just second nature for them. Like, that's awesome. Like, that is amazing. And so, yeah, it's been fun, and I'm excited for the future. And so, yeah. But, well, can I pray for us?
Yeah,
that would be
absolutely.
great. So I will pray for us. Father God, we just thank you so much for this conversation. It is a blessing to be a part of your church. And I personally just am so thankful for the ways that you've taught me about life and marriage and relationships and love and heartbreak and how to heal through people who were here before us here at The Way. We thank you for Steve and Vicky, for the visions that you give Steve and the ways that those things come to life, and the way that Vicky loves her husband, and the way that he loves her. Lord, just continue to use us as a staff to make an impact on our communities and within our church, but also our families as well. We just lift up the entire community of Jasper County to you, Lord. Help us to be a light, and give us the capacity just to continue to serve, Lord, because it is so worth it. It is so worth it to be a part of what you're doing. We give you all the glory, and we just are so excited for what is to come. So protect it. We know the enemy is not a fan, Lord, of what we're doing, but he has no idea of what he's up against, because we are tough, and we have you, and we have our spouses, Lord. So thank you for all of this. We lift this up to you, Lord. And if there's anybody listening, Lord, to this podcast that does not know you or does not have a church home, we just lift them up to you. We just invite them into our fellowship, invite them into the church, Lord, and be with them wherever they are, Lord. So we love you. In your Son's holy and precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.